No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for the very first time in Albany, New York. We are 1 week away until the Grand Slam edition of AEW Dynamite. But before that, we had these semifinal matches to find out who will be going to Arthur Ashe Stadium next week to compete for the AEW World Championship. Let's go ahead and get down to this recap. We kicked off the show with a semifinal match, Jon Moxley versus Sammy Guevara. There was a Kingston fears Sammy sign in the crowd, by the way. Sammy Guevara, being the heel that he is, went to the outside right away. He started to get arrogant. Moxley took advantage of that. Moxley was mocking Guvvara a little bit, but then Guvvara got the upper hand. He hit multiple dives to Moxley on the outside of the ring, threw Moxley into the steps. After the match, Moxley regained control. He bit Guvvara because that's what Jon Moxley does. Guvvara came back with a cutter, but he delayed when it came to making the cover, and Moxley was able to kick out. Guvvara hit a Spanish fly. Moxley kicked out again. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Moxley hit an avalanche German suplex, and at this point, Ty Conti and Anna Jay came down to the ring for a distraction. Ty Mello. Ty Mello kicked Moxley low while Anna Jay was distracting the referee. And then Sammy Guevara went for a senton, but he missed. Moxley then hit the Death Rider and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. Jon Moxley officially heading to Arthur Ashe Stadium next Wednesday night to compete for the world title. And we would find out later on who his opponent would be. Good match here to start off the show. And apparently MJF was backstage making a commotion. That's what Excalibur said on commentary. And then after the commercial break, we had MJF come down to the ring. He had his own music cut. He was angry. He said he has not slept a wink since last week. He said he's not the same kid he was in 2020 when he faced Moxley with the political campaign, if you guys remember that. He said that he's not the same guy by a long shot. He talked about Moxley's childhood, said that Moxley built up this great character and drowned all of his childhood drama in alcohol and became a worthless drunk. However, MJF did give Moxley credit for beating the habit, getting sober. However, MJF said that his brain is more dangerous than Moxley's disease. MJF said that Moxley should take his vacation, which Moxley was reportedly going to take like a 6-week vacation after All Out. That changed when everything went down with CM Punk and the Young Bucks. MJF warned Moxley that if Moxley does not tread lightly, then Moxley will find out that MJF is the demon that he cannot slay. MJF then introduced his best friend, Stokely Hathaway, along with their group, The Firm. Now, it's not MJF's group. Basically, the idea is that MJF and The Firm will go their separate ways, but The Firm will help MJF if he needs the help. And you had Stokely Hathaway talking about how MJF has them on retainer, but they're going to create opportunities for themselves. And then they had Stokely put over each member of the group, and he finished the promo by saying that people will either run with them or will run away from them. I liked the promo, but I felt between MJF and The Firm, the whole segment went on a bit long. I thought it did drag a little bit. These should have been separate segments, in my opinion. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, Are the fans going to force MJF to turn face? Well, if the fans keep cheering MJF, he's going to be a face. He can call them pieces of shit and poor and all that stuff. But if they keep cheering him, he's going to be like Stone Cold Steve Austin. AEW may have to run with him as the baby face that's a bad guy. Walter Cruz with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, say yes to no DQ, like and share, hashtag stick to my shtick. The new big baller, Walter Cruz. Thank you for that, Walter. I appreciate it. Jeff Meacham sounds like CM Punk when he's in a bad mood. Ooh, interesting. We had Jungle Boy versus Jay Lethal. Jungle Boy's back had some tape on it, and you had Satnam Singh blocking Jungle Boy from hitting a dive to Jay Lethal. Jungle Boy was dropped back first on the apron, and Jay Lethal worked over his back for a bit, but Jungle Boy did make a comeback. His back was giving him problems, but he kept on going, and Jay Lethal hit the big elbow drop. Jungle Boy kicked out of that. Jungle Boy got on the snare trap. Sanjay Dutt made one last-ditch effort to interfere. Jay Lethal rolled up Jungle Boy, but Jungle Boy kicked out, I should say. Jungle Boy got the snare trap on, and that's when Jay Lethal tapped out. Jungle Boy picked up the victory. Screwed that up there a little bit with the tap out, saying it prematurely. It was Jungle Boy beating Jay Lethal via submission with the snare trap. That's the result. And it was a fine match, pretty standard TV match. And Dr. Dakota Scorpio says Lethal takes another L. I mean, that's his role at this point. Remember, he's been around for many years. He's a veteran. But at the end of the day, you have to go with the youth. The younger guys are the ones you need to push. You need to make new stars. So that's really what Jay Lethal should be doing. He should be putting over the younger talent. Right person won here. We had a little training video with Hook and Action Bronson. They will be teaming up for next week's Grand Slam Dynamite in New York. They're going up against 2.0 from the Jericho Appreciation Society. And then we had Powerhouse Hobbs beating up a local talent from Albany. Very quick match. Hobbs hit the spine buster, picked up the win. After the match, Hobbs got on the mic. Crowd was chanting, "We want Ricky." Hobbs said it's time to open up a new chapter in the book of Hobbs. But of course, Ricky Starks came down through the crowd. Big fight broke out. Starks grabbed the mic. He hit Hobbs with the mic, set Hobbs out of the ring, and as the late great Howard Finkel would say, this feud must continue, which is fine. I mean, Starks gets his win back. Kind of feels like a WWE feud, you know? One guy wins and then the other guy wins, 50-50 booking. I mean, we'll see. Swerve in Our Glory versus the Lucha Brothers in a tag team title match. Pretty good match here with these guys, although did not exactly feel like a pay-per-view match, although I think it was good. I do feel that it was designed to give Swerve in Our Glory a big win heading into next week's match. And I'm not sure how I feel about the new trios champions losing in a tag team match when they're holding gold, but it was a good match. Back and forth here. Lee broke up a pin by taking Phoenix and throwing him into the ring into Penta. That was pretty cool. And that led to a "This is awesome" chant. And Keith Lee tagged in, started dominating. Whenever Lee was in there, he was using his power. Phoenix was able to avoid the Swerve stop. And then Phoenix hit a springboard Spanish fly, while Penta hit Keith Lee with a destroyer. Crowd popped huge for this, but Keith Lee kicked out, and then Swerve knocked Phoenix off the apron. Lee got control again, hit the jackhammer, and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. After the match was over, the Acclaimed arrived. Max Caster did not cut a freestyle rap promo. Instead, he cut a regular promo, hyping up the match for next week. And you had Bowens talk a little bit, and they had Ooh, Scissor Me Daddy t-shirts. They were hyped up, and the crowd was very much into them. I think we're going to get new champions next week. I mean, we have to, right? Otherwise, why are they doing this rematch? The crowd wanted to see it all out. I feel like we got to be getting new champions next week. Not sure if Swerve and Lee will split up after this. I mean, I think Keith Lee should probably be on a singles run, but that's just me. We had Alex Marvez backstage interviewing Pac about Lucha Brothers losing, asking if it was a bump in the road. And Pac was telling Marvez to mind his own business. And that's when all of a sudden Orange Cassidy came in with a punch to Pac, basically knocking him out with one punch. Kind of made Pac look like a doofus, but hey, guess you got to build up Orange Cassidy as a contender, right? And Orange Cassidy said that Pac is a double champion, but not for long. So there you go. The rematch is coming from Revolution 2020. Next up at 9:20 Eastern Time, take a wild guess what match we saw here. It was, in fact, Serena Deeb and Britt Baker going up against the interim women's champion, Toni Storm and Athena. The women back to their usual spot on the card before the main event. Britt Baker provided a distraction. Serena Deeb was targeting the leg. Toni Storm tagged in. She went for a crossbody, but Deeb countered with a single leg crab. Athena came in, was trying to get Deeb to break the hold, but Deeb was not doing it. Britt Baker came in, took down Athena, and Athena managed to break up a pinfall attempt, and that's when Baker took Athena to the outside, threw her into the steel steps, and then Rebel got on the apron. Baker grabbed a steel chair. Toni Storm was thrown into the chair while the referee was distracted, and Serena Deeb got the 1-2-3 victory over the interim champion. Not a big fan of the interim champion taking an L right after winning the title. And they did announce a 4-way match with these 4 participants for next week, which they just did a 4-way match at Double or Nothing, or not Double or Nothing, All Out. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about all this. I don't think the champion should be losing when she just won the title. And then afterwards, Athena tried to attack them, but she was outnumbered. Jamie Hayter then ran down, grabbed the chair from Britt Baker. However, Jamie Hayter used the chair on Athena. Athena was down, and then Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter exchanged words, and then Jamie Hayter stormed off. But there will be a fatal 4-way next week for the title. I presume that Toni Storm will retain, but anything's possible at this point. I mean, I think a title change would be silly. Finally, we had the main event of the evening for the AEW World Title, but it's a semifinal match in the tournament. The winner will go on to next week, and that's when we will crown a new champion. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson. And Dylan sent in a $2 super chat. Dylan said, Jamie Hayter should be the one to beat Jade. You may be onto something there. Jamie Hayter's been building up momentum. The crowd seems to be getting into her. She could be a contender for that, or be a contender at some point for the women's title. Anyways, you had Bryan Danielson with a very hot start here. He was kicking Jericho, chopping him. Daniel Garcia was watching backstage. Bryan hit the running knee off the apron, and then he hit a missile drop kick off the top rope. He hit a diving headbutt. Jericho kicked out of that. And Jericho dodged a kick from Bryan, suplexed Danielson. They started slapping each other. They traded chops back and forth, and then they both hit each other with a crossbody at the same time. In-ring collision with the two of them. Jericho with some elbow strikes, and Danielson was just getting fired up from this. They kept chopping each other. Jericho hit a code breaker. Bryan responded right away with a running knee. Crowd was chanting "Fight Forever." And then Jericho suplexed Bryan to the outside of the ring. Bryan was selling his ankle, and you had a trainer come over to check on him. They were trying to take off his boot. Then Jericho just came in, attacked Bryan, put the figure four on around the ring post, the old Bret Hart move. And then back in the ring, Jericho put on the walls of Jericho, but Bryan escaped it, got on the label lock. Jericho tried to get out, but Bryan reapplied it, and Jericho was in the center of the ring. Jericho had no other choice but to tap out. Bryan Danielson wins, and now next week it will be Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. Winner becomes the new AEW World Champion. Very good main event here. To me, this was the best thing of the night. These guys had a great main event to set up next week. And then afterwards, Jon Moxley came down to the ring, had a face-off with Bryan, and there was a handshake, but we were all distracted because there was a very noticeable sign in the front row. And I guess hats off to Tony Khan for not having it confiscated. If this was WWE, that sign would have been gone well before the main event. I saw it earlier. CM Punk owns the Bucks, like front and center, as AEW Dynamite was going off the air. Yeah. Good old JM, Jeff Meacham, sent in a $2 super chat saying good night to everybody. Enjoyed all the interaction. He says, say yes to no DQ. Thank you for that, JM. I appreciate it. All in all, Dynamite was a good show, but not a must-see show, in my opinion. Main event was probably something you can go out of your way to watch. Even MJF's promo was good, but not at the top of his promos, in my opinion. All in all, I would give the show B-, pretty solid, but not one of the all-time great Dynamites. More of a build-up for next week's show. Next week's show is shaping up to be one of the biggest Dynamites that we've ever seen, with a new world champion guaranteed on next week's show. Probably new tag team champions. We got a lot going on. Women's title on the line. Going to be a busy show next week. Arthur Ashe Stadium. Over 10,000 tickets sold. Not at the level of the first show. Doesn't look like it's going to be a sellout, but it's still going to be one of the biggest Dynamite crowds of the year. So that'll be fun next week. Thank you guys for continuing to support NoDQ.com. And I usually give the early bird shout outs, but I'm going to give the late bird shout outs to the people here at the end of the stream. Nick Lavin, Ken Terminates DQ, Joey Perez, Ryan Dempsey, Walter Cruz, Michael Wayne, Dr. Dakota Scorpio, TJS. Thank you guys for tuning in at the end. I very much appreciate it. And stay tuned for the No DQ review, SmackDown, more coming up. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And remember to say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.